Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. I'm your instructor for the day, Cyril. Please let me know if my audio is clear enough and I'll be sharing my screen in some time. So please provide me a confirmation whether my screen is also visible to you guys.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me just increase my audio. Yes. So yesterday briefly we talked about creation of object, right? But one thing that I have not covered as of yet is like we can even override whatever the original object that we have created. Okay, so how can we do that? We saw that like if I do a simple console.log output, you see the employee details with name and city created when creating this object is shown in the console log output, right? So what you can basically also do is you can even override the structure. So if I simply say with a dot notation like employee and I'm just updating the first name of employee to some other new name, right? Say Michael. Okay. So what this is doing, this is just updating the value of the first name property, right? And if I do a console.log statement again, you see the value gets changed to the updated value that we have added. Okay. So the original object carried the value of first name as Cyril, but now the updated object is having the property first name as Michael, another name basically that I have updated right now, right? So this is something that I guess you guys have also tried it out on your own, so you might have figured it out, but just wanted to show you. Okay. Similarly, new topic today, I'll be covering like what are arrays in JavaScript or any languages, right? So how do you just initiate an array? Basically, you can say array of fruits, right? And if I say array of fruits, of four different values, right? So this is a string array. You see there is a type string and then there is a square bracket notation added. So this is denoting me that fruits is an array of string. Okay, so this will hold only string values, right? And then basically this is how you can create arrays in JavaScript or TypeScript, right? And if you want to read through each of the properties, basically you can use the indexing method. Okay, just remember that in arrays indexing starts with a position 0. Okay, so your first position is always at index 0th position, right? So if I want to access banana, it will be at index position 1. Simply I can provide fruits and my index position at 1 and I will be able to access the second element stored inside this array. Okay, so what I can basically do is I can do a console.log statement, and if I want to see what is the first element stored in this array, right? If I just run this command, you will find that first fruit is apple, right? So that's how I'm trying to say that indexing always starts with index position at 0. Okay, so this will be at 0th position, right? And this will be at 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so this will be the index positions of each element stored in the array, right? So even you can iterate through a loop to get all the elements in an array, even that is possible, right? So once the array is fixed, even you can update this current array, right? So for example, I have already a predefined array of fruits, right? Just like in my previous example, I can update the value of the property. I can update value at any given index position. So for example, if I want to just update fruit at index position 1 as orange, even that is possible. And if I try to access what is now stored in index position 1, I should be getting the updated value, the recent changed value in my array, right? So now you see the first fruit is now orange, okay? Not the first fruit, fruit at a particular index position, okay? So we can create an array, but we can also redefine what elements to be stored in that array, right? Even that is possible, right? And one more interesting thing is, right, you can even add this kind of array to your original property. right? So if I go back to my object of employee and I just create a new property saying that what all fruits uh, this particular employee likes, just as an example, even I can do that, right? So how can I do that? I can just simply say fruits of type apple, banana, and grapes, right? Even that is possible. Now, if I just do a console.log statement of employee, you will see this change also getting reflected. So if I just add console.log and just add a statement saying that I want to print my employee, right? So even that would be possible for us. Okay, so when I do this, the entire structure of employee will be the defined structure that I have changed right now, right? You can see the first name updated as Michael, last name, and we have a new property of fruits, the employee likes, also getting added in the object structure. So this way the object becomes more flexible, right? I can even add array of values into my object element. Okay, I'll also show you how we can iterate through an array when we talk about different loops or conditional statements. When we are dealing with that topic, we can also see how we can iterate through each array and get along, right? So in mathematics, if you guys are already familiar with, we have something called as relational and equality operators, right? So how do I equate different elements with different element and make some reasonable comparisons, right? For that, we can use equality or relational operations, right? Like I can create relations between each variables, right? Like whether uh, age of employee 1 is greater than age of employee 2. Those kind of relationships can be created using relational or comparison operators, right? So this is like a very basic mathematics uh, comparison operators that you might have already known, right? So I will just list them down first and then talk about them in detail, right? So new topic, that is relational or comparison operator, right? So what all different types of operators do we have? Like, can you guys just guess out? Not really a programming related question, but a very generic question related to mathematics. Like, how can you, like, what symbols can be used to denote such notation, right? So when I say greater than, this symbol in your keyboard suggests that this quantity is something more than the other quantity, right? And if I just add some other comparisons, like this will constitute less than, right? We also have something called as more than or equal to. Okay, so these operators are something like you are adding in addition to a different operator. So when I say that 5 is more than or equal to 5, right? So 5 is not more than equal to 5, but 5 is equal to 5. So both these operations will be checked and the result will be stored in a Boolean form.
My question is related to the before topic. Suppose my object is already designed. I explained the object, but
Okay.
after some point I realize that okay, I need to add some other elements in that object. But how we can do? Again, we have to go to the main object definition and define, or is there
No,
any other way we can
yeah.
add in runtime?
Yeah, adding in runtime basically means that you want to just change the property of that object, right? So you can just
No, no,
create,
no, no. Instead of fruit, miss, I want to add the this is first name, last name, age, city. Suppose I want to add new field education in that one. How we can add
okay.
that one?
So for that, every time you have to go to the original object created and change the definition over there, right?
Aha.
Because that's
Okay.
why it becomes a more safe approach, because you do not change the original definition of the object. You go back to the original how it was supposed to be created, make a change there so that you have a global change everywhere.
But is there not any other way that in array we do the concatenation, but in object can we do the concatenation, something like that?
No, at object level we can't do it, but in basically we want to make the definition of object as very static so that once someone wants to create an employee, he adheres to all these properties. Okay. Again, these properties can become an optional property, but we will check about that in some time.
Okay, and yeah, and can we make a array of the object?
Yeah, yeah, even that is possible. Array can hold any kind of data type. Even we can create an array of employees, even that is possible.
Okay, yeah,
So coming back
thank.
to the topic that we are discussing, that is relational or comparison operator. These are some basic relational or comparison operators that we have come across in our life n number of times, right? That is greater than, that is more than, less than, greater than, more than or equal to, less than or equal to, right? So what does this simply mean? So for just for a very easy example, if I just say that 5 is greater or is less than 3, okay, and if I do a simple log output of this result, can you guys tell me what will be the expected behavior? So if I just a minute. So I'm simply going to output this element result in our console.log output, right? Right. And so what is going to happen in this case?
It will
Basically,
be a boolean and it will be true or false.
yeah, true or false. Basically, the output of this comparison will be stored in this variable called result, right? And that result will be populated in your console.log output, right? So whenever you write this kind of syntax, right, and if you are not sure what this value will be stored, what type of data type of value will be stored in this particular variable, you can just mouse over on this variable and you would find that now result has automatically understood that result is of type boolean. Okay, and the result of this operation will be stored inside this result variable. And if you do a simple log output, you see the result as false, right? And if I say 5 is less than 10, then the result is completely opposite, right? This kind of operations are really important to understand because whenever we write test cases, we also want to check a very particular condition and we need to emphasize whether that condition returns true or false, right? So what would happen in this case? Let me add a case where any idea what would happen in this case? I'm saying 5 is less than 5.
False.
Any guesses?
I think
False.
false will be populated.
False.
Absolutely right. Right. So if you come across this kind of equations, you can add this kind of operator, right? So in this case, what would happen?
Oh,
True.
True,
true.
right?
True.
Why does it become true? So the way you would read this is pretty simple, right? Like if you learn, like just read through this line, it is pretty much self-explanatory. So we will be checking whether it is less than or equal to. Okay. So here the emphasis is on this or as well, right? So if any of this condition meets, then the Boolean will be returning true. Okay. So that is the emphasis on less than or equal to or more than or equal to. Okay. And like you can even check out this condition if you have any kind of doubt whether both the conditions are satisfied or not. So if I simply write 6 is less than or equal to 5, run this transaction again, you see the output is returning as false. Why? Because 6 is not less than 5 and 6 is also not equal to 5. Okay. So these are simple operators. Now I will be talking about equality operators that we have. So equality operators. right? Equals to, right? So if I just create a variable out of it, say variable X, I'm defining a value 1, right? And if I want to say that console.log statement, right? And if I say X, whether equals to 1, okay? And if I just print this output, correct? So let me go back and comment this part so that we see only one output. So in this case, what are we expecting? I have defined the value of X to 1 and I'm comparing X with the value 1. What would happen in this case?
True.
The value will be true. Okay. So what if I do a simple change? What if instead of saying it as 1, if I make it a string with adding the same in double quotes? What would happen in this case?
False.
It's also true. True.
False.
Oh,
Okay, I have two set of answers. Some people are agree to say that it will still return true. Some people are negating by saying that it will be false. Okay. Any idea why this is returning true still?
because double equal to, right? So it will check only the the value, not the data type.
Okay. Not the data type. Okay. And
Yes.
what is the data type stored over here? Which from
Here
which
it's
data
a
type?
string. It's a string. The
Okay.
14th line. Hmm.
Okay. So if I make a simple change over here, saying console.log statement, X is triple equals to the same statement, and in single quotes I have 1. So in this case, what would happen?
It will fail.
It will fail, right? So you are
Yes.
absolutely right. The second case will fail because the condition is pretty much simple. Double equal to is not a very strict equality operator, okay? But triple equal to basically also defines that this is strictly equal or not. So that means that we are checking whether x is equals to 1. Along with that, we also want to ensure that x is equals to the number type 1. Okay, getting the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Sir,
technically, hmm,
then in TypeScript, will also have the same logic, or is there
no,
any
no, no,
difference?
no. We'll come to TypeScript in some time.
Yeah,
As I
yeah,
told you, right?
but
So
out
yeah,
of curiosity, I'm
curiosity.
asking right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's fine. But let us take that topic at the end of the session or once we discuss TypeScript. So I am actually uh, discussing through this topic so that you
Yes.
would
Yeah.
appreciate TypeScript more when
Yeah.
we talk about TypeScript, right? So I am just trying to loosely highlight what are drawbacks we have when we write such kind of codes using JavaScript. Okay. So I think this concept is pretty much important topic even from an interview point of view. People like to trick you with this kind of solutions so that only if you have the conceptual idea of what is a loose equality operator and strict equality operator, you would come up with the right answer. Okay. So the first one is always called as the loose equality operator or loose comparison. If you want to say it in that way, even that is fine. So we are loosely comparing a value with a different value irrespective of its data type, right? And in the second case, this is more a strict comparison wherein we also want to ensure that the data type of the other end is also of the same type, right? And if you see it in this case, if I write one more statement, right, x triple equals to 1, okay? So in this case, what would happen?
True.
Okay, this case will be true anyway because now it has not only matched the value 1, but it has also matched the data type number, right? If you mouse over on X, you can clearly say that now variable X is of type number. So we also check the type check. So here you can also write also type check. Okay, so this is like a relational operators that we talked about, and then we were talking about the equality operators, right? Apart from that, we also have logical operators, right? So what are logical operators basically? If you guys are familiar with logical operators in any languages.
And operator
And
or
or
operator.
Yes, yes. So or we have already seen a condition, right? In such kind of equality operator or relational operator, this is working as an or, right? Where we check whether this is less than or equal to. Okay, if any of the condition is meeting, this condition will return as true, right? So if you say if any condition is true, it returns true. Okay, and to showcase and an or in JavaScript, let us create one more a new lesson here. So I would say lesson number 5.js, right? And we'll be talking about logical operators predefinitely here, logical operators, right? And first learn about this operator called AND operator, right? So what is AND operator? Basically, if I do a simple console.log statement, right? And if I just say that first condition is true, and if I want to check the other condition as well, and if the second condition is also true, okay, only in this case the return value will be returned as true. Okay, if any of this condition is false, then the latter will be shown in for the user, right? So if I run the lesson 5.js, you see that when both the conditions are true, the console.log statement returns as true. Okay, and how do we write AND operators? You cannot simply write A and D, right? Just like in Java, you need to make use of this ampersand symbol, okay, added twice. Okay, that's how you can define an AND operator. So if any of the condition we have manually updated it as false, what would happen in this case,
It's
False.
a false.
False.
right? So true and false returns false, right? But if I just change this and with or, in that case, what would happen?
True will populate.
Okay, so let us move on to the second logical operator, that is the OR operator that we're discussing, correct? So same statement we can take it again, right? That is console.log, right? I would say true, okay? Just for use case, let me just add and over here and make it as false, right? I would just comment out this code, right? We saw this output already. When we have true and false, the latter operation is returned, right? But if I just change the AND operator with double pipe, okay, so this is also called as the pipe operator, okay, because the symbol that you see just about your enter keyword, using shift and then pressing that button, you will see this kind of character coming up. This is also called as a pipe operator. This similarly looks like a pipe, right? So this is also called as an OR operator, okay. So in this case, what would happen?
True.
The answer would be true. Why? Because this is simply become an OR operator. Okay. So just remember, if you want to add an AND operator, the character will be double ampersand, and for OR operator will be the pipe operator, right? So vertical lines that you see it on the keyboard. Okay. So where do we use it? If I just take an example where I'm checking whether if I want to create an application where I'm checking whether a particular person is eligible for driving or not, right? And what is first eligibility that we check in India is whether he is more than 18 years or not, right? So if I say whether is is valid, okay, I will just create a boolean, say age is valid, correct? And so if I want to just create an operator, just imagine that I'm creating an application to check eligibility of user to get license. Okay, driving license. Okay, so my first eligibility will be whether he is of age or not, and the second eligibility whether is he a citizen or not, right? So first operation boolean I have already created. Second boolean operator will be is citizen or not. Okay, only if he is a citizen of the particular country, then only I will be facilitating with him the license, right? And then finally I would create one more uh, variable to say is eligible. Okay, okay, this kind of logic I have created. So when, so what is our use case here, right? When can I say whether a particular user is eligible or not, right? When age is valid, correct? And he's also a citizen, right? So in this case, is it fair to say whether the guy is eligible, correct? So this kind of statement helps us to actually compare or create conditions, multiple conditions to create eligibility for a user, right? And I can simply say, is user eligible for license? And we'll be passing this variable true or not, right? And to give this condition, what I can do right now, you can see that this boolean is undefined, right? This all everything is undefined because I haven't assigned any values to it. Okay, so when I say this is a boolean, I want to update the value as true, right? So I can say case number one, he's of valid age and he's also of valid citizen of the country. Okay, and now if I run this statement, do we have any console log statement? Yeah, here. Let me comment that one out. Okay, so that we only run line number 18. And if I run lesson5.js again, we get an output saying that is user eligible for license and the value is returned as true. Okay, and if any of the value is not met, if any of the condition is not met, like he is a valid citizen but he is not of valid age, okay, maybe he's a minor or he's under 18. Okay, in that case you see the value is returned as false. Okay, so this kind of conditional statements or logical operators will help us going forward to come up with better assertions and write better code and to check better validity.
Yes, Cyril, what if we both are undefined or null?
Then that is not a Boolean case, right? Because if you see this kind
Oh,
of statement, we are only checking for whether it is a Boolean case or not.
okay,
We will discuss some questions at the later part.
fine.
We'll
Right,
go on with each topic and we'll just
sure.
compare. Okay. There is one more important operator I want to show you guys. Like you can negate whatever operations you want to do with a not operator. Okay. And this is called as the logical not operator. The symbol for the same is this exclamatory mark that you see. Okay. So the simple operation will be when I say console statement. Okay. And when I say this is true, this is simply going to print me what? True, correct? Am I right? So if I run
Yes,
node
yes.
lesson5.js, it will
Okay.
return me true. What if I have a set of condition and I just want to negate that condition? Okay. So you can even say this as a not or a negate operator. Okay. I'm just negating whatever logic I have created. And if I just add a not true, okay. So how would you read this statement? It's pretty simple. You will read the statement as not and then the condition. Okay. And now if I just run this script again, you see the condition is returned as false. Okay, so even this kind of casing helps you with a lot of test cases, right? So if I just create a bracket over here, right, and if I simply say I just negate this condition, whatever condition I have predefined, so I am primarily saying that I am checking whether age is valid and age is and the particular guy is a citizen, and I simply want to negate that statement completely, I would just add a parenthesis in front and end of it, followed by a not operator. Okay, not operators are also very powerful in writing simple logics. Okay, so what can be one more use case, like if I want to write a simple statement when I'm comparing two numbers, basically console.log, right? And if I say 6 is equal to the number 10, right? So what are we expecting to happen here? This is the same arithmetic operator that we discussed before. If you run this operation, the operation returns as false, right? And if I just negate this using a not operator, then we just get an result that is opposite to what we were expecting. Okay, so in this case, we are just checking whether 6 is equal to 10, not. Got it? Okay. When dealing with numbers, you can even come up with multiple options, like multiple operations, right? You can have a combination of all these three. You can check whether a particular condition meets with and with a different set of condition and the whole condition, or we can check one more condition and the whole thing can be negated with a negate operator, right? But to keep it simple, always understand how you're going to use it so that you do not overcomplicate things and do not understand how this is going to work out in real time. So I'm just walking you through very basic conditional operators and very basics of programming, because once you have a stronger base, we can basically discuss on some complex topics, and most of your doubts will automatically get resolved once we go through that topics. Okay, so that's the agenda of walking you through simple exercises, right? Because these are like very basics of programming language. This is like, universal thing. This is not like only specific to JavaScript as a language, but any language so far you come across, right? Like one more thing that uh, as a language developer or a programmer you need to understand is the conditional statements, right? Any conditional statements you guys are already aware of, or what are conditional statements in general?
If
Use
else,
of if else.
If it's
Yes. So if else is one kind, if else. Anything else you guys are familiar with?
Which
like
case?
switch and ternary operator.
Switch. Okay. Ternary operator, again a little bit advanced topic, but nice that you guys are already aware of. Okay. Okay. We'll start with simple switch. I mean simple if else condition, right? To understand how if else condition works and how do we read through it. A very famous, a very common conditional statement is the if else condition. Okay. So I will just write a basic syntax first and then we will walk through it. Okay. So what happens in if else condition? Just take this as a basic syntax I have created, right? Just imagine you have some kind of condition added over here. Like just like in previous session, we were talking about different conditions here, right? So this can be one condition, right? Any condition, and if that condition is satisfied, a particular set of code that you have added inside this curly braces will be executed. So execute code here. Okay. And if this condition is simply not satisfied, we will be executing some code that is written over here. Okay. Again, a very simple thing, right? You create a condition and you want to say that if, like, an ongoing example, if I can take, like we have a condition where we are checking whether is he eligible or not. right? So if I write if he is eligible, proceed with next step of formalities to give him license. If he is not eligible, simply write a statement saying that console.log, and we can simply say not eligible, try again later. Correct. We can have n examples where if and else are working, right? Like if you have a simple ATM machine, right, and you want to withdraw some money out of that ATM machine, and if your balance is less than what you have added the number in your ATM machine, simply what will happen? You will be thrown out of the system, right? You will be saying that you can try again later, right? And to show some kind of an example, like if you want to create an application where you want to wish someone some greetings to user, okay, based on time of the day, okay. So if you have an application where I want to create such kind of a behavior where I want to greet a user based on what time of the day we are right now, right? So simple logic will be whenever we are waking up, right? So your waking up time will be from 7 to 1 o'clock. That will be your morning time. After 1 to 2, it will be your afternoon time. And after 2, you can simply give a statement, good evening, right? If you want to greet someone, right? That's how we normally have an approach, right? So for the same thing, if I just create a variable, say variable hour, okay, this can be any hour of the day. We will be talking in a 24-hour format, right? And I can say that hour is 5, okay? And now I'm writing my conditional statement, right, to greet a person, right? So what are our three conditions basically? I will just write down the conditions here as well so that it is pretty clear. So if hour between, when do you say good morning? Is it 6 o'clock for you guys or 7? When do you guys wake up? Depending on that, okay? So 6 to 12 is your good morning time, right? Another statement I can say if it is from 12 to 2 in the afternoon, it is good afternoon. Okay. To make it pretty clear, we do not have AM and PM format as of now. I would be taking a 24-hour format here, right? I would be considering 24-hour format. Okay, so that we do not confuse ourselves, right? So 12 to 14 in the afternoon is your afternoon, right? Right? And any time beyond 14, right, is your evening time, right? So after 14 is evening, correct? Same thing we can add it in an if else condition statement to greet a person. So how do I do that? So what would be my first condition here? If I want to say good morning, I can check my hour. If it is more than or equals to 6, right? And then what I'm checking? So what is the condition from 6 to 12, right? So I can write ampersand ampersand hour less than 12. Okay. So if this condition is satisfied, I will do a simple log statement saying good morning, right? And else if, okay, we just talked about if and else, right? But you can have multiple else conditions here. And finally, you can have an else condition. So you can have multiple if condition, and then finally you can have an else condition, right? So this is a continuation of what we were discussing. So this is if statement. And then if you want to continue with another if statement, you need to write else if, okay? You cannot simply write another if statement over here, okay? Because this will break the loop and this will be considered the continuation or a discontinuation or a new if condition, okay? So to avoid that, you have to always write else if and the second condition saying the hour is now between 12 and hour less than 14. Okay, so this is what the afternoon time, right? And if any of these conditions are not met, right, we are simply going to go with the evening time if you want to greet someone, right? So if the hours are not in between 6 to 12, right, and between 12 to 4, okay, that is a generalized statement that we make that it is good evening, correct? Okay, I'm just trying to give you simpler examples so that you understand the flow of if else statements first, right? And you are able to relate these things from your day-to-day life, right? So if you see, we have satisfied the same condition that we have met over here. Okay, so if I try to run this statement now, okay, I have already predefined my hour is equals to 5. Let me run this statement. Okay, we met with a failure. Condition is not defined. Okay, so here we have not defined the condition. So this is just a syntax that I wanted to share with you. So I would just comment out this part and rerun it. So what would happen in this case? What will be the output that we are expecting? So I have set my hour equals to 5. So which if statement will this code run?
First one. If
Good
condition.
evening.
Good evening.
Which one?
Good evening.
Are you sure?
Good morning.
Good evening.
You're absolutely right. So I think some of you have not understood, do let me know. So the condition was pretty much an easier condition. We just added hour as 5. Okay. Just put 5 over here. What would happen? 5 greater than or equals to 6. Is that a right statement to make? Is 5 greater than 6? Is 5 equal to 6? No. Is 5 less than 12? No. So this if condition will be omitted, right? Now come to the second else if condition. Is 5 greater than 12? No, right? 5 equal to 12? Again, no. 5 less than 14? No. So we haven't met any of the first two if conditions. So by design, we will be running this statement. Okay, so that's why understanding in this way is more important, because once you start writing code, uh, even before you execute code, you should have that architectural understanding where which condition would be met and what set of code will be running over here. But, okay, one more exercise. I would just change this value to 11. Now, can you guys guess, or not guess, basically tell me an answer, like what would be the output of this statement,
Good morning. If the value is 11.
right? So we are meeting the first condition, right? And whenever you are writing a condition, also make sure that you are satisfying the borderline condition as well, right? So if I say 12, what would happen? Any answers?
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon. Afternoon.
Okay. Simple reason being that I have handled the end case condition, right? So if I do not add greater than or equal to condition here, then this will be completely missed out, right? So that is what we talk about the borderline condition when you're writing any statements, right? A good code is something that works in every situation. Okay, that's what a good code is all about, right? If I just remove this equal to condition over here, what would happen? And my hour is 12. What would happen in this case,
Good evening. It will false in else condition.
right? And our program will be completely wrong, right? So that's why make sure you handle all the borderline conditions when you write any set of code. So these are if else condition for you, and the continuation of what we had in previous class, right? Like when we talked about this condition, we can add this in combination of what we are discussing right now. So if I just copy this two statement from here, right, and put it back over here, right, and I can simply create an if condition, else condition out of it to check the eligibility of an user, right? So how do I do that? So if I say age is valid, right, and he's also a citizen of the country, right, I'm going to provide him with the license. Okay, user is eligible for license. Else what I'm going to do, else simply I'm going to say that user is not eligible for license, right? So this is what combination you can use. Okay, the combination means like we already talked about and operators. So this condition can be any condition. That's what I'm trying to say. The condition that is stored in the if else statement can be any set of rules that are defined by an user, right? So if you create an app where you want to check where you are providing driving license to user or not based on two different parameters, this is how at the base architectural level it would be designed. If condition, if else conditions, right? Make sure you practice this. Like even the examples, if I share, might seem very much easier to follow, but once you write your own if else condition, you might fall into traps. Then you would understand that you have missed out to understand the if else statement. How does it perform in real time? Okay, so make sure you do that. So I'm just walking you through simple statements and simple conditions where we are meeting this, because at the architectural level, like framework level of any language follows this pattern. Any language that you take, right, more or less they would be following this pattern. So if you want to learn any language, basically understand what simple relational operators are, what are simple conditional statements that you can write, right? And the third thing that you can learn basically is loops. Okay, we'll talk about different conditional statements, right? But let me just give you an hang of what basically you can do with loops as a structure. Okay, let me create one more session over here. 7.js. Okay, so once you go back, right, make sure you practice each and every type of statement that we have discussed, right? So that to get a hang of it, right? So any of you guys are like already aware of what are loops?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of a loop?
For loop, do while loop.
For loop, right? So for loop an example. So I will just try to give you a sense of why do we need to use loops first, right? So just imagine you have a set of code where you are saying hello to a user, right? And if I want to print this, say five number of times, what am I going to do is I will just copy this. Okay. So if it is five times and I write repeating myself, is this a good way of writing a code? Like my statement of purpose is like I want to print hello n times. I will say n times. Okay. So n can be any set of number. So here you can see I have printed for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay. Tomorrow, the requirement changes. Okay. You just created a code where you want to print hello five times. You did it with a simple logic saying that I would just copy paste my line of code five times. What if the customer or client or someone comes to you that, I want to print it now 20 times? Will this kind of approach help you out? No, right?
Yeah.
Simply doesn't make any sense. So how do you handle this kind of situation? Okay. So we will be handling it using loops. Okay. I will write a simple statement or a simple syntax of what loops are, right? Loops are basically you create a for loop, right? And you have three set of statement over here. So you have a statement one, you have a statement 2, right? We will talk about these statements in some time now. What are these three statements, right? And then we add a open and close curly braces, and this code to be executed is what we mentioned over here, right? So this is basically the syntax I am trying to share it with you. This is just a syntax of for loop. Okay, at every base level, the syntax of for loop will be having this kind of structure, right? So how do I create a for loop? Basically, what is my statement 1, statement 2, and statement 3, right? So if I just write for, what would be my statement 1? Like if I want to just basically don't think of it from a programming angle, just think of it from a very logical perception when you talk about doing a set of activity n number of times. So what will be my first condition? What should I do to start my loop?
Initialization.
Initialization of what?
Initialization of the variable that we are going to use.
Okay. So
Miss,
how should I initialize this variable?
miss, very miss. Suppose I want here we are saying 5 times, 10 times. So
Hmm.
there will be the some starting point for that variable, right? So I'll declare
Hmm.
variable I equals to 1 or I equals to 0.
Start from a position
Yeah. Mm.
and end at a
Yes.
position.
Mm.
This makes sense to everyone, right? So whenever you're running a marathon, how do you run a marathon? Like if you're running in loops, right? And one loop is like 100 meter, and if you want to complete 700 meters, right? So you will be running 7 times in the same circle to complete 700 meters, right? So you start at a position and you end at some position. Okay. Once you have understood this concept of starting somewhere and ending somewhere, you basically understand why we need loops in any programming languages, right? So what basically happens, I can just create a variable, say I, which is like my index variable. And this I basically, I would start with 0. Okay. Why 0 is again a very interesting topic. Like, why do we always start with 0? Okay. The idea behind starting with 0 is pretty much common in any language, because if you go back to our lessons where we talked about array somewhere, let me show that. Like if you see this example when we were talking about arrays, right? In programming also, they always say that whenever you are creating an array, the indexing starts from a 0th position. Okay. And that's how the counting starts in programming from 0, right? So 0 to 1 is step 1, 1 to 2 is step 2, and 2 to 3 is step 3, right? So that's why the counter starts from index as 0. Okay. But this is not a hardliner. Okay. So whenever you learn a loop, don't make up your mind saying that I would start with 0 and end at that position. Okay. If logically starting with 1 and then indexing at 5 makes sense to you, you can go with that, right? But most of the people like to count from 0 to 1 as 1, 1 to 2 as 2. That's the reason why we always start our indexing with 0th position. Okay, so that is initialization. So we did this part where I'm starting from a position. Okay, then what should be my statement number 2 over here? What should I do so that I end up at number 5? End here. How? What statement should I put over here so that my second use case of ending somewhere is satisfied?
We will have to give a condition.
Give a condition basically, yeah. So here my condition will be less than 5 because I want to print it 5 times, correct? And then what should be my third statement? Will this still work out? So we solve the problem in two different ways. Like when I told you the syntaxing of a loop, We told like if I want to do an activity something, I need to start from a position and end at a position. Okay. What is between starting and ending? How do I reach from starting to ending?
You need to
We need a
increment or
counter.
decrement. Yeah.
Right. So I'm starting somewhere here. I'm ending somewhere here. What is the journey from start to end? Right.
We need a
That
counter.
journey is something that we are going to write in our statement number 3. Okay. I hope that is making much sense now. Okay. Uh, this I plus plus might be confusing to some people, but just imagine that I plus plus is something like this. Okay, so I plus plus, if I uh, break it down for you, I plus plus is basically I and I plus 1. Okay, so this is the short form of writing this kind of code. Okay, even I can write the third statement as I equals to I plus 1. Even that would be valid. Okay, but I plus plus is something like you are incrementing I by plus 1. That is I plus plus operator for you, right? And then what I will do, I will simply add a statement saying console.log hello, correct? So does this satisfy the purpose of creating this program of printing hello 5 times? Will it work out?
Because it is less than 5, maybe it may not work out.
Can you count and check?
Oh, actually, we are starting with 0, so maybe it will work.
No, no, never say maybe in program. You have already understood how the counting works, right?
Yes,
So
It
yes, it
will
will
work.
work.
it would work out.
It will
Okay,
work.
it will work. So we are printing hello 5 times. And this resolves a problem at a very high scale, right? So like requirement changes, right? Someone says now print 10 times. Only one simple change will fix your problem. What should I do to do the same activity of printing hello 10 times? What should I do?
Uh,
I
Change
is
the
less
condition to
than
9.
10.
9.
Replace 5 with
Replace I
I
with,
is less than 10.
yeah, less than 10.
10.
So if you guys have confusion in counting also, right? Like if you want, if you are someone who counts from 1, you can make it as 1 over here. Okay, that doesn't change your logic. I just went back to showing you the example of arrays, basically to show you how you start counting in your fingers, right? If it is something that you count the first value as 0, then you have counted 0 as your first position. Okay, but in a very practical sense, if you are someone who likes to count from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can use I equals to 1 over here. Okay, and if I print I less than 10, this will only print me 9 times, right? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And if I want to say print 10 times, then I may have to change my thinking over here, that I want to add a number which is more than what I want.
you can put less than or equal to 10 as well.
Less than or equal to 10 also works. That condition also is satisfied. Correct. That also is satisfied. So I'm trying to make you understand in this way, because never learn any language the way they have designed it. Try to think it of a way how you pursue day-to-day things in your life. Then only you can make logical interpretation whenever coming up, whenever you are writing some code. And then only you will be able to relate what you want to achieve by writing such a code. Okay. So I think by this, I think we will stop here. Okay. Because the next topic will be some advanced loop that I want to discuss, followed by functions, classes, and methods. And then finally, uh, starting our journey with TypeScript. Okay. So many small topics we have covered so far here, right? So I want you guys to go back and relax and sit on this topic for a while, try to understand the basic conceptual knowledge here, right? And then we can move on with some advanced topics.
Cyril, could you please suggest some websites where we can go and practice online?
Go on, practice what exactly? Like you wanna
Like,
just play around code or
yeah, JavaScript. Yeah.
yeah. So if you do not want to open your IDE and run your code, there is also one more website that is available. I can just share it with you, where you can simply start writing code without even creating an environment. So that website is basically called playcode.io. Here you can just start coding. You can select your language, and here the environment setup is already pre-done for you. And here you can write your set of code that you wish to write, and you will see the console.log statement coming up.
Okay.
But better have a practice of writing code from VS Code
Yeah.
itself,
So, yeah.
so that you make small mistakes, and when you run each time you come across some issues, and you can read through those issues and try to figure out stuff on your own.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, excuse me. What was the website you just opened now to practice
Okay,
from?
okay. Yeah, that is playcode.io. You
Thank
can,
you.
yeah, do a simple search on Playcode. The first website that you see, this is basically a sandbox website. You can basically start coding in any language. Okay. So you'll get a sample JavaScript template, right? And here you can just start coding. So here if you just write console.log, print something. So in real time, you will see the output coming up downwards. Okay. I can do one more thing. Like we have already covered arrays, right? So can you guys tell me like using for loop? Okay, the question is pretty simple. I will just copy this statement from here. So copy this statement of creating an arrays of fruits. Okay, I added this here. Now can you guys tell me how can I? So my statement purpose is very clear. The way I was able to print hello 10 times, now I want to print each element that is available inside this array. How can I do that?
Um, in
Array.log.
console.log, you will have to type fruits in square brackets, the
Hmm.
index.
No, no, no. That will just give me a singular point, right?
Uh,
I want
Mhm.
to print all the fruits in this. I am not sure.
Hmm.
This array can be of any
uh,
length. I am not sure. I do not have any idea where it is starting, where it is ending. It can be anything.
You will have to iterate it till the length of the array,
Hmm.
and after that in console.log you can simply put fruits,
Hmm.
square bracket, and index number. It will print all the attributes, all the values.
Okay, that is nice. There is one more another way of doing it is using a for off loop. Okay, so there is a simple for loop in JavaScript language that lets you do the same activity. So I can simply say let fruit singular of fruits being my array. Okay, and then if I simply write a console.log statement, and I can print out each fruit from this array. Okay, so also see the use case of how I'm using English to read through a code. So I'm saying fruit singular of fruits s, which is an array of fruits, right? And if I do a single simple console.log statement of fruit, we will see what we will get. Let's see. Okay, let me just comment out this part and run our code. It has already worked, but I want to show you a cleaner output. You can see each fruit now becomes a value that is stored inside the fruits array. So what would happen here first time? First time the value of fruit will be designated as apple. Apple will be printed. Again the loop will start. Second time banana. Banana will be printed. And this loop will continuously run till the end of the loop, right? And this is a very cleaner way of writing it because now it doesn't matter where my array is starting or ending. I can add n number of values over here. Last root. Okay, really doesn't matter where it is ending. So the other approach that you said, like we can use this kind of model where I can set the indexing at 0 and my last part would be the length of the array and I can increment through that array and print fruit, square brackets and the fruit. That will also work. Okay, so the same thing you can write it in this fashion. Let me just show you how you can write it in the other way. So you can say for, you can create an index. Okay, whenever now when you talk about this idea, right, you have to come back to this concept again. Okay, so the concept is how does indexing is set in a array. Okay, so here you have to understand that now my index position 0 will be apple. Okay, so this is my starting point, this is my ending point, and to whatever in between is the journey that I would be making. Okay, so once you have understood that, you would understand that let I equals to indexing starts from 0. My second condition being I want to know till where I want to reach, right? And that will be my length of my fruits array, right? So fruits dot length will basically give me the length of the array. Okay. And the third part will be I would be incrementing the same. And in console.log statement, I would be just adding my indexing, whatever I have. So we already know fruits at 0th position will give me apple. We have seen it in this example, right? 0th position gives me apple. First position gives me orange. If I type 2, I will get grapes. And if I type 3, I will get the last position. Okay. So here also we don't know what would be the last position. That's why we are going with this condition that your nth position will be the length of that array. That's why we write fruits dot length, right? And let me just comment out this part. Okay, and it works in the same fashion, right? But just a option from my end, like what I like to do personally is whenever I have a array of variable, I like to use the off loop, right? It's much more readable and you have omitted this part of code that is internally taken care of this part, correct? Same logic is getting applied when you write this kind of loop, but this is more readable, right? And requires less of the knowledge of where the indexing starts for array, right? Because here you can make a very hard mistake. Suppose you don't know internally where the indexing starts for an array, right? What you would do, you would add I equals to 1 and see the mistake that it will do. We just omitted the first element completely just because we did not have the internal understanding of how indexing is done in an array, right? Okay, so two loops: for loop the iterative way and the for off loop for iterating through an array. Okay, these are like very basics. So go through these ones and let me know if you have any issues or confusions there. Okay.
So still second approach is enhanced for loop. I'm not sure.
No, no, no. Second approach is not enhanced for loop. So you are talking about for each loop, right? You
Yeah,
mean this approach?
yeah, right.
Yeah, this is more like a for each loop approach.
Okay.
And the first approach that I have taught you with for loop is a more iterative
Yeah,
approach where
correct.
you iterate through each value.
Yeah, right.
I think with that, we'll stop our session today.
Cyril, I have one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can we use let or constant keyword instead of where for the examples we use?
Yeah, for the examples where you do not want to reassign the value of a variable, you can. But where you want to change the value of that variable continuously, you have to go with let or var. Okay. Let or var, I think I want to give you all the differences all together when we talk about functions as well. Because when I talk about the difference between let and var, you guys should already be have some familiarity of what are functions, right? Then only I can give you the exact difference of how let and var basically works, right? But at this level, I can basically say that var lets you work in this fashion. So you can simply say var y equals to 1, right? You can again reinitialize y equals to 2. So this is still a valid statement in JavaScript. But when you use let as a condition and you say let z equals to 2 and you again say let z equals to 2, okay, this starts giving me an error. Okay, the error is very clear. It says that you cannot redeclare a block scoped variable z with let. Okay, so one primary difference is like var lets you redeclare a variable, like you're making that statement again that y is a variable. That is still allowed with var. Okay, let does not let you do that. Okay, and const we have already seen that. So this is still valid. Okay, you can reassign a variable with let as well and with var as well, right? Const basically being a constant simply says that you have declared this variable a as a constant. You have assigned the value a to a number 3. And now if you make a simple statement saying that a is now reassigned to 4, this gives you an issue. Okay, you do not see the red scribbly line over here because in JavaScript, this kind of issues are not caught in runtime. Sorry, not caught in compile time. It is only caught in runtime. Okay, so this I have shown you in the first class, right? If I run this statement, what would happen? Correct. So this is one example, but I want to drill down all the examples, differences between var and let. Once we cover functions also, okay, so that we understand what is the scope of a variable, right? Scope of a variable and all those concepts will come when we talk about functions. So more, okay, stop recording.